All right, we are back. Contractor Compass, episode 29. We got the whole gang here. We're almost to 30, race to 30.
That's it.
Um, we were chatting a little bit before going live here. We are gonna today. We figured we pick something, a topic that is relative to the time of year. So this is going to be about seasonal slumps in home service businesses. Obviously, as if you guys listen to this podcast before, we're pretty dialed in terms of HVAC installation space. But obviously, this encompasses other industries as well. But just seasonal slumps, how to handle them, what business owners need to know. I'm thinking we can all kind of speak to this from different aspects. Me from a marketing perspective, a team perspective, if you hire, if you fire, what you should do to keep revenue coming in. A lot of different things. So I think I'll start it out. I'll start it out from what I would know about, right? Which is the HV or the marketing side, right? So and this is relative to me. I just had this conversation with an individual probably 10 minutes ago.
Nice.
Company out of Florida, larger company. They handle quite a few things, including, plumbing and siding and electrical and HVAC, right? Their HVAC division did a little over 2 million last year. There was a hurricane last year. And they think that had affected things this year. They're slowing down. They're on pace for like just under 2. And we were talking about things to do during the slow season. So first things first, when I was chatting with this gentleman is like, okay, what are you currently doing? Right. And I'm saying this story because this is relative to a lot of people that are probably listening, right? You're like, well, I'm doing LSA ads and I've done some PPC and I've got my SEO team and I've got all that going and that's great. Right. And we're doing some Facebook marketing maybe and things like that. And you're like, well, how can I generate more leads? And you probably partnered with Angie's and you probably got networks. And if you're like a relatively large size company, if you have the marketing budget, you're probably doing all these things. Or maybe you're even smaller, you're doing under $1 million a year and you're still somehow finding the money to put a little bit of coin into each one of these things. The question is, how do I get more? How do I generate more? Well, it's funny because everybody's looking for like another platform, right? Or
Oh
another
yeah.
service,
Mhm.
right? It's like, guys, one thing you have to understand is that even if you go to another lead aggregator that's not Angie's, it's not networks, it's not whatever, they're still getting their leads from somewhere,
Yeah, exactly.
right? So it's like they aren't just populating out of nowhere. But one thing that we talked about that I think is relative to this conversation is I asked him more questions about Facebook, about Meta, about YouTube, about these disruptive platforms that he's not using. Because as we talked about many times on this podcast, I don't need to go over it again. But on those disruptive platforms, you can create the interest, right? You
Mhm.
create the conversation. You sell the click. Your CSR sells the appointment, and you sell the service.
Yeah.
Um, and that's something that you can control. You can actually control it. It's not like, hey, I hope I get another lead from Angie, or hey, I hope I get an LSA call, or man, I've upped my budget to $6,000 a week on LSA, but it only spends $500 a week,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Those are all problems that everybody faces. So, one thing that we talked about was disruptive, leveraging into high quality video content, good offers, good ads, a good process, offering pricing tools, offering all these other things that will make them stand out just to start the conversation.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even need to be about new systems, right? It can be on IAQ products. We talked about this too, because he said he has a really good sales team. He says, I got 2 great comfort advisors. I said, awesome. He said, all they need to do is get in the home. He said, I don't care if I don't sell the system that day. I might sell it 3 months from that because my guys talk to him. Great. Right. So
Yeah.
then they're getting in the home on IAQ and we're running, whatever products the other, and it's going to be company to company. If you're just an HVAC company, right? Yeah, you're probably going to run, purifiers and thermostats and maybe
Mhm.
tune-ups and these other things that you can get in the home with that are small ticket that aren't really worth you going out, but you're not going there just for that. You're going there to create a relationship, maybe sell something bigger ticket and keep revenue coming in. At the very least, you're going out there to at least get them on a maintenance program.
There it is.
Um,
Yeah.
Actually, I just
but
was on the phone with Mike Lang, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and asking him about volume and how's things going. And he's like, we're going back through all of our leads or through the incoming calls. And if we see we're going through each call, and if it's a house that has multi zones and we replaced one and we're going on a maintenance ticket, we're sending a sales guy versus a service tech to sell them another maintenance package, maintenance program, warranty package on that second unit. And
Yep.
we're in sales mode now. We have the time to go back and basically take the
yeah,
time to analyze each call and see if there's a potential sale. And so they're farming out of their own customer.
It's fantastic. Yeah. 100%. More people that know who they are, they can just do something more for them. That's fantastic. I mean, I hadn't even got to that point yet, but right, like talking on maintenance agreements, like you've got a whole lot of customers right there, to help. You can do something for them, whether you're garage doors or you're doing, maybe you offered another service, or they need a new chain, or I don't know what you replace on garage doors. I couldn't tell you, but I'm sure you can do something for them.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff.
Springs.
Yeah. There's always something. So, anyway, to that point, Jace, anything you want to add on, like that was more the marketing side. That's more disruptive, right? Create the interest. Anything you want to
Yeah. So here's my word of advice, and I say this to every company coming in the shoulder season is save up.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, hands down, you're gonna take a hit. You're not gonna be, and I tell my sales guys this, and I tell everybody this: set expectations, right? So I set expectations when I go and talk to clients. It's not gonna be, unless you have been preparing for it. If you're having the conversation right now, you're already too late. The conversation you're having right now needs to be for shoulder season 2025.
Correct.
Right now, you better just hold. It's not really hold on. I mean, you're going to be able to tread the water through it. It's not going to sink your company. I mean, it's only, depending on where you're at, it's only going to be a month or a couple months. And in something like that, you should have honestly been preparing on the books for it, because every single company goes through it. So I'm going to say this to those business owners that are like, oh my gosh, we're starting to dip. Yeah, no shit. Everybody does. You're not
Correct.
the only person. So don't feel bad about it. Don't think you're failing as a business owner, because everybody's going to be going through it. So it's just, now you got to know how to navigate these waters. And to do that, you do things exactly to what Cole and Tom was just talking about. You go back to the basics. You have your maintenance agreement set up. You get your drip campaigns going, which is going to be what Colton will set you up on through texting. $59 just to get in the door, $59 cleanups or tune-ups. And then here's a really little trick for you, and this kind of alludes to what Tom was saying, and this is what we do, is on those clean tune-ups. Well, so we used to do it this way. This year, we're actually doing it different, because our project manager or comfort advisor actually was an HVAC installer himself. So we send him to our tune-ups, and the guy will go out to a $280 tune-up or cleaning, and he'll sell a furnace. But what we used to do is we'd send a tech and a sales guy with the tech, the project manager tech. Now, he wouldn't be wearing his khakis and his loafers, so make sure you don't do that. Act as if it's both technicians going to the door to do the tune-up, right? Now it's all dependent on how you got your sales guy set up. Is he fully commissioned? You gotta work out. We can't go through every point to cover here, but what I would say is, if he's on commission, you got to make sure you make an incentive for him to do this. If he's on base plus commission, then he's already covered, right? So, and then a lot of our guys are base plus commission for sales. So they roll out with our techs on shoulder season, and they're the ones having that conversation. They're down there talking to them like, holy crap, this is what's going on. And then they're upstairs talking with the homeowner. A lot of companies, though, they call them B leads, and they do this all year. And that's where the whole concept comes from. I mean, there's a lot of companies, I'm not going to say their names, but they're very, very big companies. And they're well known in every single state because they're all around. But I'm not going to throw no names out there, but that's how they run. They call them B leads. And they run a technician and a comfort advisor together to every single service call. And that comfort advisor is there to capitalize on converting. So you're doing that, right? So you're doing your drip campaign, your text messaging on your $59 deals to get into the door. Make sure you have a good drip campaign set up on that. You're running you're obviously tapping into your your PMAs for your heating season. So all your memberships coming up for that. That should be covering you through anyways. And then your training all year long has been advising your guys to be set up to take the blinders off through these calls to where they're not just going in for the clean. Like, listen, I'm getting you in the door at $59, but I need you guys developing 3 estimates, right? Correct. I need you guys to be looking for the IAQ. I need you to be looking to sell the steam humidifier at this point in time. I need you to be looking at the oil tanks. I need you to be, these are things, and that expectation is set with you guys. Like, listen, we're a team. Yeah, we all get to ride the gravy train where you guys can barely sneeze at a job and they close in $6,000, right? Yeah. Now it's time I need you guys to grind it out, and it's going to be coming through this season. So that's really right now what they should be doing. But at the end of the day, as a business owner, don't kick yourself in the ass if you're hitting hitting lower numbers through these months. It's going to happen to everybody. So just expect it.
Correct. Yeah, I think it's just like you said, a combination of being proactive beforehand. You got to know it, and then active activities that you actually have to do now, right? Like an actual, like they said, the actions that we're taking. This is why. I mean, like Tom said, that's a perfect example. I mean, you don't grow as big as to where Mike is by not knowing what the hell's going on, right? So I mean, they they have a game plan for their sales team, for the CSRs. They're going through, they're calling customers back, they're getting out there, they're running, like you said, Jace, they're running a sales guy with them. It's a perfect storm to make something happen. But that's exactly what it is. I mean, now it's that point where you have to make something happen. I think that's actually kind of I didn't really think about talking about this, but I think that's actually a good point. Some guys, let's just say, not necessarily, I don't want to say in the heating and cooling game, just because there's always seasonality. But we can use it as an example. Let's just say somebody started a new company and they haven't hit that yet, or that the first year they were so small it didn't really affect them very much. And let's say they're in year 2, and with any home service company, and let's say they get to a point where, it starts to slow down, and they've never had to make something happen before in that particular business. Like, it was just the demand. They were in a good market. It was there. It could be installation. I talk to installation guys all the time that are like this. Less and less HVAC guys now, just because they're popping up everywhere, right? There's always competition. But like, if you talk to AC guys, like I'll give you a perfect example. There's a company here in town called Haley Comfort Systems. I'm in Rochester. They're a great company. We did a company story for them, and they have the owner talks about when he started the company, and he's like, pretty soon we had more work than we can handle, and we moved into another shop, and we did this and we did that, right? And that's, which is awesome. It's what everybody wants. But I think sometimes some guys get in, like, they start their company and then they have this stage of like, oh my God, I have so much work. I've never marketed. I don't have to market. I don't have to, like, I show up and I only want these particular awesome deals that are 20K and above. And, then they get to a point and it's like, shit, I don't have any more of those. Like, I don't know how to make stuff happen. And then then they're panicking. And then they're calling me.
That's
right?
it.
It's like, and then they're short on cash. They're this and that. It's like, you kind of miss the boat a little bit. But I mean, and everybody has to, if you're in that position, you have to go through that stage and freak out and lose a little bit. Otherwise, you're just not going to know.
And here's a big one too. This is one that really kind of, it was a company very similar when you were explaining it. It was painting the picture of this company, this client I worked with. And they did that. And it was a 10-year-old company. And their father owned a new construction side of it, blew the whole company up. It kind of pivoted off of the new construction side, floated into now the residential side on heating and cooling. And big fish, small pond situation, never had a market. I mean, Google was just, their organic was just insane. And then all of a sudden they hit the low, and they're like, holy, it was like a wall, and nothing was closing no more. And what it was is competitors started flooding their market. People had choice now. And it kind of went down that road real quick for them. And they're like, what do we do? So one area that really helped them through was they got connected with, and I know this isn't the best at all. Well, I'll tell you this, it's great. You just got to make sure you have a strong front end team, meaning your office staff. Get tied in with your American home warranty companies if you're in that area. They're huge. There's so many. They tied into them, and so many people they stray away from them because, like, oh my gosh, well, we can only fix the bare minimum. No, that's not true at all. Like, yeah, they're gonna tell you, hey, we'll cover X, Y, and Z, but when you're in there, that's a guarantee. Now you're telling the homeowner, hey, man, it's almost like selling. I don't know if you talk to roofing companies, but they're gonna go fix your roof and say, hey, your insurance is gonna cover $10,000 worth. We need to fix $20,000 worth, but I'm going to make sure I get 10 grand covered for you. That person's going to be grateful. You're already on the good side. So how this company handled it was great. Their front end staff was great. They went and say, hey, listen, man, the home warranty company they're going to take care of $1,300 of this for you. It's going to be a $4,000 ticket. And then they would submit that over to the warranty company, and it'd go through every single time. And it was a perfect way to get your foot in the door. Everybody's, shield was down, right? That wall was down for selling because it was a warranty call. Homeowner knew it was a warranty call. The sales guy knew it was a warranty call. So everybody went into it super relaxed. Homeowner's like, yeah, okay, what are they going to cover? Yeah, we're going to take care of $4,000 for you. it's gonna be $6,500. You're gonna have to come forward the other $2,500. Homeowner's like, absolutely, let's get it done. And it was,
Yeah.
I mean, hand over fist. It worked like that. Now the front end on the reporting and getting things back to the warranty companies, but the amount of calls that was coming through, because there wasn't that many companies at all in the area that wanted to touch this. I mean, it was just hand over fist, and it kept their team. They had to hire 2 or 3 people on just to take care of those leads that were coming in. So when you're going through these to make things happen, it's going to be in a direction like that, right? Get a hold of your warranty companies in the area, home warranty companies, and I promise you, American Home Shield, they're huge. They'll have plenty of leads for you all day long.
That's a great point. That's actually a great point. I will say, be aware of what it is. It's a tool to get you through the season and maybe help you grow from the beginning company. Don't get too deep in the woods with them though, where it's your only source of income.
Yeah, don't build your business around it.
Correct. There are some companies that do that. So just a quick caveat there. I talked to a lot of guys that's why they're calling me. They're like, hey, I'm working with home warranty company. I need to, like, I'm trying to get away from them because it's the only thing that we do. Right?
Yeah.
So, which is besides the point. That's not what we're talking about here. But that is a great point to leverage that and use it, because that's completely out of your ecosystem. That's fantastic, right? It's customers that you never would have talked to. So take it on the chin with it, not with the caveats that may come along with it during the slow season, but still worth doing for sure.
Oh, absolutely, because you get long-term customers because I can take, and I just did this because we're coming to the year end, right? I went over a 7-year report, and I've only been with this other client for 3 years, but I did 7 years, and I wanted to see, okay, what's our acquisition on new customers for the last 7 years during this period, right? Through your shoulder months. It's abysmal, right? I mean, it's rinse and repeat every single year, because I'm the type where I'm like, man, let's make things happen, right? Let's shake things up. I need to turn this around. This is where the pain point is. Let's see if we can fix it.
Yeah.
And year after year, it's the same story over and over and over again. So always being proactive, always trying to get something moving and happening. But when I look at that new customer acquisition side of it, it's never there. So what does that tell you? It tells you got to target your existing customers. So you got to go back to your existing customers. You got to build marketing plans around them, and you got to be proactive with it. Have somebody like Colton set up with your team. This thing is going to launch on this date. We're going to run it for this long. We're going to hit these customers this many times. I have this entire book of business. Don't throw it on Colton tomorrow and say, I need this to happen next week for me. I mean, can it happen? It can, because honestly, that's how I met Colton. I was with a client at a Devon, and it literally happened like that. We ran that drip campaign. We did $180,000 in a month on existing customers, and it was pretty much like we barely paid a thing for to get it going. It was insane. So
if you got a good marketing company, they'll pay the Twilio fees for you. So, or whatever you use. But to your point, just to touch on that for just a second.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you threw kind of an exact figure out for people, because sometimes you would not believe, like, it's our standard procedure to run a reactivation for every HVAC company that we work with, because we're in the installation and HVAC space. So when we get installation's a little bit different. They're not repeat customers. It's a little bit different, but we try and run Google reviews or whatever. But anyway, my point is, you would not believe how many people are blown out of the water on reactivation campaigns.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not hard to do at all.
No.
But they just they don't know how to do it. So they don't take the time to do it, or they don't have a marketing team, so they don't do it, or their marketing team is too lazy to do it for them. Or they they don't put any importance on it. Well, they're my customers. So I would know if they want to buy more things.
I love it. There's no, I heard this one. There's no more meat on those bones. Come on.
Well, dealers get in such a habit of doing the same thing every day.
Yeah.
Same thing, whether it's busy or not. And like all of a sudden, like you said, they freak out when all of a sudden shoulder season comes in. But that's what, talking with Mike Lang, and I've learned an awful lot from him, obviously 50 years of the business, but he's making it happen himself. And the sales manager are reviewing every call and go send a sales tech out on that one, because it's got a potential for XYZ, like you said. Most people don't replace their hot water heater when they do their AC. And it's like, you look at the age of the house, it's like,
that makes sense. Yeah.
And a big one too is reporting, right? So back to Tom's point, and honestly, a lot of what we've been talking about, you got to have a good CRM software in place, and your reports have to be on point, meaning that you should have been made sure that every time the client or techs are going into homes, they're letting you know, hey, they're taking pictures of all data plates, right? So when you're in a basement, you definitely want to, even if you're not there for the hot water tank and you're there for the AC, the boiler, or the furnace, make sure your technician knows part of the form they fill out is to take pictures of data plates of things that we fix. Because if we're taking a picture of a hot water tank and we're not even there for it, right? He's there for HVAC. That's something that automatically, depending on your CRM software, is going to get recorded in there. Say, hey, this is a 8-year-old, like our software that we use automatically tells us the minute that picture is uploaded, okay, this is an 8-year-old hot water tank. It needs to be like we have all of our setup on 10 years. So at 10 years, we're going to get notified. So as you're building, you're already in the person's home. This is already your customer. And you need to make sure you're taking care of that customer full spectrum 360. So those are services that once you're in your shoulder season, you're like, hey, let me pull a report real quick on all equipment that's at 9 years. Let me pull a report real quick on, everything that has IAQ that was put in 4 years ago. And let's start looking at filters, UV lights, things of that nature, 5 years, things of that nature. So you got to dig in, right? You got to start to dig in at this time.
Some of that stuff is going to take a little while to
Yeah.
set up. If you're listening to this now, you're like, I can't do that, right?
Yeah.
I don't have it set up. Well, set it up now, so that next year you do.
Exactly, 100%. 1 year would be huge.
Yep. Yeah, just planning on things that are proactive, and that's a good point that you make there, Jason, in terms of like notating different things that you can search for directly. Like that'd be a perfect example for us in the marketing space. People who have we're doing SEO for, but we're not doing paid ads for, or people we just built a one-off website for because that's what they needed, right? And maybe now they're further along the line, or whatever it may be. So just making sure that they're and I can tell you, I also have been in a position where things aren't organized, right? Where we've ran a reactivation, let's say, for ourselves, and because obviously we have different services that we can do here, and we have people that are already on that service or whatever, right? That becomes a nightmare.
Exactly.
So make sure that you're organized in that manner too before you even go out and try and do anything like that.
Golly, yeah, that's big.
Yeah, I mean 100%, and I would say I think that creativity at the end of the day, in terms of like from a marketing perspective, I think is going to win the day during the slow season.
Yeah. And even if you don't want to get into that route, sorry, Tom, to your market, you're being organized on that front. And this is where, I'm kind of OCD in this a little bit, but sometimes when you're doing too many things at once, some things can slip through the cracks. So, I just got slapped in the face on, going through. I started pulling all my reports. We're coming to the end of the year, right? And I'm going through and I'm looking at, and I always watch my canceled jobs. I always look to see the reason why, right? Things like that. But you gotta, right now, if you haven't looked through stuff, I mean, you could have nuggets just laying there and just pull your reports on jobs that were canceled, and you can see, holy crap, this person canceled. I need to get back out to them, or maybe I need to touch base with them and see what's been going on. Or let me pull all my unsold estimates real fast, right? And let me get my project manager calling on all my unsold estimates for the whole year. See if they ever fall through with any of those. That was a huge one. We did over $200,000 where I had a guy sitting we call him an ISA, inside sales agent. I hired him on for 1 month. He sat in our office, called all our unsold estimates manually, dialed through them all, called them, and he racked up over $200,000 on estimates that were just thrown to the wayside because nobody followed up on them. And they were all HVAC. I mean, it's things like that where you got to exhaust your leads. Sometimes you got so much laying there. And people just keep walking through and they want new. And they come and get you called. And they're like, hey, well, we need new. We need more. Yeah. And you're like, hey, let me see your books real quick. And you're seeing that they got $5.2 million in unsold estimates sitting there. And you're like, dude, half of these don't even have any follow-ups on them. Like, I'm not going to put 20 more in front of you if your guys can't even do a basic follow-up, right? Or if you don't even got a structure in place for it. It's insane. So that's a very basic thing that you could do with what you already have.
Yep, I agree.
One of the things also that I was speaking with Mike, obviously again today, they've got into pool heater maintenance.
Oh yeah, I remember that from the other week. Yeah.
So basically, it's a condensing unit that's the same thing as an HVAC. So you got your skill set that run an
Yeah.
ad saying, "Hey, do you got a pool heater? Do you want us to check it out? You know, a special deal on, you know, it's the time of the year you're going to be using that damn thing. Let's
Get creative. Yeah,
take a look at it."
100%.
Whole home
100%.
generators, whole home water softeners, filtration systems. There's all kinds of things you can pair up with your company. You just got to make sure you know what you're getting into on some of them things, though. Generators
Yeah.
can be finicky. Got to understand the permitting process, things like that.
Yeah, I think that's like you said, that once again, that comes down to creativity.
Yeah.
If you have the skill set, what more can you do? What can you get into? Also, something I was thinking about when you started talking about lists, Jace, that's maybe a good point to bring up. If somebody's just literally listening to this to get the tactics that they can do, if you're really like, you're sitting twiddling your thumbs during the day, waiting for a call, and you're already, let's say you're doing these other things that we've already mentioned, you can literally scrape lists.
Yeah.
And cold call them.
Exactly. 100%.
Right? Like you can find lists where people have been interested, or you can buy lists. I promise you, there's a million people out there that want to sell you a list.
Yeah. Welcome to the 90s.
Yeah, literally. And so you can buy a list and you can plug that in. If you're literally old fashioned and you're calling from your cell phone, that's fine. You can also plug it into a power dialer and just run through that baby.
That's it.
And you're it's not gonna be fun. That's right. Well, what's more fun, still having your business or not having it?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, you can do things like that.
Super simple things.
But
get it by email list too, because now emails aren't a huge click through, right? We all know that, but I can promise you this: if you have a list, you can literally set that up to where you can YouTube how to mass email. And you can put all them into an Excel. You can create one Word doc. You can upload the Excel into the Word doc. I mean, I've seen companies do this with because they're like, hey, I don't have Constant Contact, or I don't have any of these softwares. I don't want to pay for them just yet. You can do it for free. You got to pay for the list. Just get all the emails, dump them in there, do 1,000 at a time, so you don't get flagged. And then you can send your message out there and pepper make sure it's a list that's people within your area, obviously.
So I'll drop a little bit of sauce here, but not too much. So, you got to pay for the rest.
Right. That's what we told the ladies.
Yeah, there is so what I would recommend, if you're a big company listening to this and you haven't found a good process for cold email.
Yeah.
I would recommend a software called Instantly, especially nowadays. So Instantly is integrated with AI. It's going to warm up domains for you. Buy your domains off of a good domain service. So do not use your company domain. Okay, that's first thing. Don't use your company domain. Domains will burn out. They will. So you do not want to use a company domain. You don't.
Why not?
Because when people run let's say we're tier 1 clicks marketing, right? If somebody gets a cold email from me, they're going to get it from, tier 1 marketing. It's like misspelled. It's a domain it's close, but it's not my domain, because if that ever when I'm running campaigns, if those campaigns ever get marked as spam, that'll affect your domain score. Now, if you're doing cold email properly, it shouldn't get drafted as spam. We did it wrong one time. I'll tell you the aftermath of this. We had a client come in. We were going to run a reactivation campaign for them for email. We've never done email before. We've only done text messages. To this day, we still stick to text messages. We do cold email for ourselves. We did email. We used our domain, which it had a cover domain, so it was named their company, but on the back end, it was really our domain that was sending the emails. We sent 7,000. The bounce rate wasn't incredibly high, but it was high. And we cleaned the list, but you're never going to get rid of all crappy emails.
No.
We cleaned the list, and there was such a bounce rate, it crushed our domain, and none of our emails would be received in the inbox anymore from that point on. So for a year, we sent emails from a Gmail account while I ran an email campaign on our home domain to 50,000 emails over the course of a year that were cleaned 100,000 times, that were just the least spammy email you could ever get in your life, to get our domain rank back up so where people could actually receive our emails. It was a nightmare. So
yes, that's a true story.
Yes. Instantly is the service I'd recommend. Get your domains from like GoDaddy or something like that. Like don't buy them from anywhere else. Like if they're cheap, they're not going to last as long. You can scrape your lists however you want to scrape your lists, buy them, whatever. Warm your domains up for 14 days. Once again, this is very specific. So this is more so if you're a larger company listening or you have a big client list or whatever. This is more marketing stuff. So this is a little bit granular for most people, but that is how I recommend doing it. Make sure your this is even beyond me. Your emails will have certain qualifications. There's like a tool that you need to check. I don't even know. My team handles that. But I know you can find it on YouTube. But those are very, very, very important things. Also,
some nuggets.
Yes. Also, last thing I'll leave people with: cold email should not look like a salesy email. Everybody writes cold email. I made this mistake, and it's got emojis in the subject, and it's got emojis in the email. That baby's going to trash. It's going to spam. It's not getting read. Your email should have a subject line, a hook on the top, not even like a sales hook, just a hook that in lowercase letters.
Yeah.
Right. That is interesting enough for them to get them to click on it. The entire cold email should be in lowercase. There should be no links. And that will have the best open rate and the best conversion rate of those types of emails. No emojis, no salesy stuff. Anyway, there's some nuggets on cold email.
There's some nuggets right there. And then I've even had people put in the subject line RE dot, so it looks like it's a reply.
Yes.
Yes. Pretty good. Pretty good click through.
We've ran cold emails that say new lead.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's funny. I mean, there's all kinds of hacks you can do on that side.
And definitely test. Don't try and have all your subject like you can test a more of a clickbaity subject line.
Yeah.
Right. But don't have it be all of them. But
and you can drop subject line. There's free websites you can go on to put a subject line in there. It'll rate it and score it for you. Say, hey, this is an A plus, or 100.
Correct.
And it'll give you a score to say, hey, this is going to be the most success. Those are things that if you're like now, some of the things where Colton's like, hey, if you're at this high level, you can do it. A lot of people are going to just hire someone like Colton's team to manage all that for them. But if you're a small company, you're one-man show, two-man show, this is your first show of the season you're getting into, you're at the time where you need to grind it out. Everybody's been here doing this exactly the same thing. I've done it myself 100 times over. I've actually even taken it to before I even did HVAC. I did it at other companies that were in the finance world, and it worked very well for me. And I was the only one doing it because you got to grind it out, right? So if I want to have a lot of success, I'm gonna do what nobody else is doing, and I'm gonna pound the leads as much as I can. And that's what I did. I had a book of business. I took the book of business and I just hammered that and exhausted that book of business any way I could. And I found all these tips and tricks just by YouTube and things, talking with someone like Colin, and finding out how to kind of navigate those waters. But you got to grind it out, man. If you're at that point right now, you're going to come to the show season, expect to have it slow down a little bit for you. If it doesn't for you, man, you're great. You need to jump on. We'll bring you on. You got to tell us how you do it. But if you're going to run like everybody else is going to run this season, just expect it to, but just know that you're going to grind it out and you're going to learn a ton of stuff from it. And that's the best thing, man.
100%.
That's priceless.
Take the losses as what can I learn from it? And you'll be just fine. Also, to Jason's point, another route. If you're thinking you're just fine, you got plenty of work, take a step back, look at your business. You're probably not doing enough business. You feel like you're busy. You feel like I got plenty of work, but then you realize it's you and a part-time helper. Time to go.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why it feels like that. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And you don't need to have a huge outfit, but
and start running some job costing. I had that where I walked in, somebody like, oh no, we do good, man. We're constantly busy. Our schedule's complete falls. They were booked out 3 months on installs, and I'm like, holy crap. And I'm looking at the installs, and I'm like, that's a 4-day install for a 2-zone. I said, you guys run job costing on these things? Oh no, we're good. We know where our multiplier's at. I said, oh, let's run job costing on these, man. $25,000 in a hole with the first 15 jobs I'm going through. I'm like, y'all are busy, but you're going broke. I said, so you got to figure this out. And that's the first thing to do, man. So if you think you're super busy, man, sometimes busy, you got to be busy the right way.
Correct. 100%. I agree. Tom, before we wrap this up, I think we talked about a lot of stuff, but before we wrap this up, any add-ons from you? Let me pick your brain, Tom. That fluffy hair. Tell me what you're thinking here.
At the risk of I don't know where my sign is, but at the risk of financing, in other words.
Okay, not so organized, buddy.
All right, I found it.
There it is. There it is. Yeah.
But in other words, one of the things that obviously my sister company's there around the clock, so I talk a lot about that, and they're really cutting pricing from to be super competitive. They call it the winter rates, or whatever you want to call it. But in other words, what I talk with Mike Lang about is like, hey, why don't we go the other direction and start, there is no free interest anywhere in the world. And so, but at the same time, if you go and offer 36 months no interest, that's going to cost you probably 15% of your job cost is a lender fee. But at the same time, you go out that door and you're knocking on the door and say, hey, how are you going to pay for it today? And the guy goes, well, I'm interested in financing. Is like, you know what? Before you give the guy a price, because you can't raise the price depending on what finance offer you got. Say, well, how does 36 months no interest sound? Oh man, that would be great. That'd give me plenty of time. Now all of a sudden you put an extra 15 points on what your bottom line net profit is, what you're looking for, or you know what I'm saying? But people buy payments, and it's a situation where we offer 120 months as far as, or a 20-year term. You can get a $10,000 HVAC for about $86 a month, and the bottom line is your power bill is going to make your payment for you. So I'm going out on the limb talking about financing, but
that's good.
How can you motivate a customer?
Correct.
To say yes.
Correct. Capitalizing once you're already in the home, right? We talked about how to get in the home, but that's a good way for you to capitalize once you're in the home and not walk away with a pouty face and a quote that you gave to them. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Walk away with some money in your pocket. Yeah. No, that's a great point, Tom. That's a great point.
And Tony Robbins always says that one quote he said that stuck with me, and I told you guys that story before. And you can find it on YouTube. It's when 08 happened, the recession happened, and everybody was shrinking. And his buddy was expanding. And everybody else was dropping their prices, and his buddy was raising his prices. And Tony Robbins speaks to, if it has nothing to do with, you got to be able to do something that if you're doing something for your customer that nobody else is doing, you already won the game. You ain't got to worry about the price at that point. So if you're coming down to where, and I tell them, man, this is a conversation I have with my sales guy all the time. He's like, oh man, they got other quotes. I said, well, we need to be doing something that they're not doing. It's not about price. I said, so you just got to look at those aspects, and that really doesn't have much to do with where you guys are at in the shoulder season, but because it's kind of high time for that. But really just prepare 2025. Start thinking, hey, can I start getting a mat that my guy carries up and throws down in front of the front door when we go up and has our logo on it?
Correct.
The shoe booties. Like, how do I stand out in 2025?
Correct. And you should look at it from an aspect of like, how do we not shrink at all during the shoulder season? You're going to, right? But like, it's not like, oh, we're going to run a reactivation campaign and we're going to do this, right? It's like, no, we're doing this and this and this and this, and this is how it's structured. And this is what we're doing. And we're pitching financing. We're in the home and we're getting in there on this. Like, have a very clear game plan. Don't just try and wing it.
That's huge.
And you're sure as hell be a lot better off than you probably are now. So.
And write it down and record on what your success rate is this year so that you can duplicate that same thing next year. It's a rinse and repeat process.
Correct.
The economy shifts every now and then, but to Colin's point, you got to have a good marketing system and process in place coming into these years.
Yeah, no, 100%. Awesome. All right, well, we'll see you guys next one on episode 30. Man, we're getting up there now, folks. I don't know.
Dirty 30.
How long we've been doing this, but all right, guys, we'll see you on the next one.
All right, see ya.
See you later.